I was on my knees in a penthouse bathroom when I realized I'd sold myself to the wrong man. Not literally on my knees, though that's what he wanted. What they all wanted. No, I was on the cold marble floor because I'd locked myself in here 20 minutes ago, hyperventilating in a wedding dress that cost more than my father's entire failed company, and I couldn't make my legs work anymore. The rehearsal dinner was in full swing 3 floors below. 200 guests. Champagne towers. A string quartet playing something beautiful and devastating. And me, the bride-to-be, hiding in a bathroom because 30 minutes ago I'd let my fiancé's younger brother pin me against a wall in the wine cellar and tell me exactly what he'd do to me if I gave him permission. He didn't touch me. That was the worst part. He didn't have to. But I'm getting ahead of myself. If you're listening to this, if you're the kind of person who understands that sometimes the worst mistakes feel like salvation, then stay with me. Hit that subscribe button, because this story gets darker before it gets anywhere close to light. And comment below if you've ever wanted something so badly you'd destroy everything good in your life just to taste it once. Because that's where I was headed. And I knew it. 3 months earlier, my father called me into his office at 2 a.m. I'd been asleep in my apartment in New York, working on my economics PhD, when my phone wouldn't stop ringing. When I finally answered, his voice was destroyed. I need you to come home. Home was Lagos. I hadn't been back in 2 years. What happened? Everything, he said. I lost everything. He had 6 months of bad investments, a business partner who'd embezzled half their assets, and a company that had been in our family for 30 years was now worth less than nothing. Debt, criminal investigations, the kind of collapse that makes the news. I flew back the next day. The house I grew up in was already being assessed by creditors. My mother sat in the living room, staring at nothing, her hands folded in her lap like she was praying to a god who'd stopped listening years ago. My father looked like he'd aged a decade. There's a way out, he said. I knew what was coming. I'd read enough books, watched enough films. I wasn't naive. A man in Seoul, he continued. He's willing to acquire the company, settle the debts, clear the investigations. Everything. In exchange for what? My father couldn't look at me. He wants a wife. I laughed. Actually laughed, sharp and bitter. This isn't the 19th century. He's offering $20 million, my father said quietly. And he doesn't want love. He wants an arrangement. 3 years. You'd live in Seoul. Attend events. Represent his family. After 3 years, you're free. The money is yours. The company is saved. And if I say no, then I'll likely go to prison, he said. Your mother will lose everything. And you'll go back to New York, knowing you could have prevented it. Manipulation. Masterful, devastating manipulation. But also the truth. I met Jinwoo Park 2 weeks later. He flew to Lagos himself, which surprised me. Men like him usually sent representatives. But he came personally, stepped out of a black Mercedes in a suit that probably cost more than my entire education, and shook my father's hand with the kind of cold politeness that made it clear this was a transaction, not a social call. Then he looked at me. Miss Adeyemi, he said, shall we speak privately? We sat in my father's office, Jinwoo on one side of the desk, me on the other. He was older than I expected, early 50s, maybe, handsome, in that sharp, controlled way that came from discipline and money. His Korean was precise. His English, better than mine. I'll be direct, he said. I'm not looking for love. I've had that. It destroyed me. I'm looking for someone intelligent, self-sufficient, and willing to fulfill a role. You'd be my wife in name and appearance. Publicly, we'd present as a traditional married couple. Privately, you'd have your own space, your own life, within reason. Within reason, I repeated. I'd require your presence at certain events. Charity, galas, business dinners, family obligations. I'd require discretion, and I'd require that within 3 years, you provide an heir. The heir left the room. An heir, I said slowly. 1 child. After that, the marriage can be dissolved or maintained at your discretion. You'd receive 20 million immediately upon marriage, and another 30 upon the birth of a child. Custody would be shared, though primary residence would be with me. He said it like he was negotiating a merger. Because that's what it was. Why me? I asked. He studied me for a long moment. Because you're brilliant. Because you don't love me. And because you look nothing like her. Here? My first wife, he said. She died 15 years ago. I don't intend to love again. That's why this arrangement works. You're not a replacement. You're a solution. I should have walked out. I should have told him to go to hell. But I looked at my father's face, through the glass door, saw my mother's empty expression in the hallway. And I understood that sometimes love isn't what saves you. Sometimes it's cold, calculated survival. I need to think about it, I said. You have 24 hours, Jinwoo replied. After that, I'm pursuing other options. I said yes 16 hours later. Seoul in January was brutal. Cold in a way that Lagos never prepared me for. I arrived at Incheon Airport at midnight, and Jinwoo's driver was waiting. Silent. Professional. He drove me through the city in a car that cost more than most people's houses, and I watched the lights blur past, feeling like I was entering a different dimension. The penthouse was in Gangnam. Top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Han River. Minimalist. Sterile. Beautiful in the way museums are beautiful. A housekeeper named Mrs. Cho showed me to my room. Not our room. My room. Separate from Jinwoo's master suite, connected by a hallway that felt like a border crossing. Mr. Park will see you for breakfast at 7, she said in Korean. I understood enough to nod. I didn't sleep that night. I stood at the window, looking at a city I didn't know, in a country where I didn't speak the language fluently, engaged to a man who'd made it clear I was a business decision. And I told myself this was fine. This was survival. This was the choice I made. At 6:45 the next morning, I walked into the dining room. Jinwoo was already there, reading a tablet, drinking black coffee. He looked up when I entered, stood politely, waited for me to sit. Did you sleep well? He asked. No. He nodded, like he expected that. It will take time to adjust. Mrs. Cho will help you with anything you need. I've arranged for a Korean tutor 3 times a week. You'll also meet with my stylist tomorrow. We have a dinner on Friday night. You'll need appropriate attire. Okay. The prenuptial agreement is with my attorney. You'll sign it this afternoon. The wedding is in 6 weeks. City Hall, private ceremony. We'll have a formal reception later, for business associates. He said it all, in the same tone he probably used to discuss quarterly earnings. Do you have any questions? He asked. I had 1,000, but I asked the only one that mattered. Do you regret this? He looked at me. Really looked at me. For the first time since I'd arrived. No, he said. Regret requires emotional investment. I stopped investing 15 years ago. That should have been my first clue. But I was too focused on survival to see the warning. I met Min-jae 3 days later. Jinwoo had a family dinner scheduled. His parents were dead, but he had a younger brother he rarely mentioned. When I asked about him, Jinwoo's face did something strange. Not quite emotion, more like the ghost of it. He'll be there tonight, was all he said. The dinner was at a private restaurant in Itaewon. Traditional Korean. The kind of place where everything was whispered and expensive. Jinwoo's hand was on my lower back as we entered, proprietary but not affectionate. Min-jae was already seated. I saw him before Jinwoo introduced us, and something in my chest twisted. He was younger than Jinwoo by at least a decade. Late 30s, maybe early 40s. Where Jinwoo was controlled and precise, Min-jae looked like he'd just rolled out of someone's bed. His suit jacket was off, his shirt unbuttoned at the collar, his hair too long by Korean business standards. He had a glass of whiskey in front of him, and he was watching us with an expression I couldn't read. My brother, Jinwoo, said flatly. Min-jae. Min-jae stood, slowly, and looked at me. Not at Jinwoo, at me. So, you're the replacement, he said in English. The air froze. Jinwoo's hand tightened on my back. Don't. What? Min-jae smiled, but it wasn't friendly. I'm just making an observation. She doesn't look anything like Hae-won. That's the point, right? Sit down, Jinwoo said quietly. Min-jae ignored him, walked around the table, stopped in front of me, close enough that I could smell the whiskey, and something else. Rain. maybe. Or cigarettes. Did he tell you about her? Min-jae asked me. No, I said. Of course not. Min-jae laughed, sharp and bitter. My brother doesn't talk about things that break. Enough. Jin-woo's voice was cold. Final. Min-jae held my gaze for another beat, then stepped back, raised his glass in mock salute, and sat down. The dinner was excruciating. Jin-woo and Min-jae barely spoke. When they did, it was in Korean, fast and clipped. The kind of conversation that's really an argument pretending to be civil. I sat there, picking at food I couldn't taste, feeling like I was watching a play I didn't have the script for. But I felt Min-jae watching me. Every time I looked up, his eyes were on me. Not leering, not sexual, just observing, like he was trying to figure out a puzzle. After dinner, Jin-woo excused himself to take a phone call. He stepped outside, leaving me alone at the table with Min-jae. The silence was immediate and suffocating. So, Min-jae said finally, how much did he pay your family? I should have been offended, but I was tired of pretending. Enough, I said. He nodded slowly. At least you're honest. Is there a point to this conversation? Just trying to understand what kind of woman agrees to marry a ghost. A desperate one, I said. That made him pause. He leaned back in his chair, studying me with something that might have been respect. He won't love you, Min-jae said quietly. You know that, right? He's incapable of it. After Haewon died, something in him just shut off. He'll treat you well, give you everything you need materially. But he'll never see you. Not really. I'm not asking him to. Then what are you asking for? Survival, I said. Min-jae's expression shifted. Softened, maybe. That's the saddest thing I've heard all year. Jin-woo came back then, and the conversation ended. But as we left, Min-jae caught my arm. Just for a second. Just long enough to say, if you ever want to know the truth about my brother, find me. Then he let go, and I felt the absence of his hand like a burn. The wedding was cold and efficient, just like Jin-woo promised. City Hall. A judge. 2 witnesses pulled from his legal team. I wore a simple white dress that his stylist had chosen. Jin-woo wore a suit. We signed papers. The judge declared us married. Jin-woo kissed my cheek, not my lips. And that was it. I was Mrs. Park. The reception was 3 weeks later. A massive affair at the Schiller Hotel. 500 guests. Politicians. Business moguls. Celebrities I recognized from Korean dramas. I smiled until my face hurt, shook hands with people whose names I immediately forgot, and stood next to Jin-woo, while photographers captured our perfect, hollow marriage. Min-jae didn't come. I told myself I wasn't looking for him, but I was. After the reception, Jin-woo and I went back to the penthouse. He poured himself a scotch, loosened his tie, and looked at me with something that might have been exhaustion. You did well tonight, he said. Thank you. The merger with your father's company finalized this morning. The patents are being transferred to Park Industries. You fulfilled your end of the bargain. I blinked. That was the bargain? The patents? Primarily, Jin-woo said. Your father's research in sustainable energy infrastructure is worth considerably more than 20 million. The marriage was necessary to avoid complications with international acquisition laws. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. So I was. What? A legal workaround. You were a solution to multiple problems. Jin-woo said calmly. The patents, the optics, of a stable family image for the board. And yes, eventually, an heir to secure the succession. You could have just told me that. Would you have said yes? I didn't answer, because we both knew I would have. Jin-woo finished his scotch, set the glass down, and looked at me with those empty, careful eyes. Your room is ready, he said. We'll discuss the next steps tomorrow. He left, and I stood in a designer gown in a penthouse that cost more than my entire life, married to a man who saw me as a tax structure, and I thought, this is fine. This is what I chose. But I didn't believe it. I started seeing Min-jae everywhere. Not intentionally. The building was massive, 40 floors of luxury apartments and private offices. But somehow, I kept running into him. The elevator at 2 in the morning, when I couldn't sleep. The rooftop garden, where I'd go to escape Mrs. Cho's pitying looks, the parking garage when I was coming back from language lessons. He never seemed surprised to see me. "Can't sleep?" he asked one night, leaning against the elevator wall, hands in his pockets. "No. Jin Woo's not much of a conversationalist," Min-jae said. "I'm guessing the penthouse is pretty quiet." "It's fine. You keep saying that." The elevator doors opened. My floor. I stepped out, but Min-jae followed. "This isn't your floor," I said. "I know." He walked with me down the hallway, hands still in his pockets, that infuriating half-smile on his face. "What do you want?" I asked. "To know if you're okay." "Why do you care?" "Because someone should," Min-jae said. "And it's clearly not my brother." We stopped in front of my door. I turned to face him. And suddenly, the hallway felt too small. "He's not cruel," I said. "He's just dead inside," Min-jae offered. "Emotionally unavailable? Married to a memory? Honest," I finished. He told me what this was from the beginning. "I'm not a victim. Aren't you?" The question hit harder than it should have. "Go home, Min-jae." "I don't have one," he said quietly. "Not anymore." He left then, disappearing back into the elevator, and I stood there wondering what the hell that meant. I found out 2 weeks later. There was a locked room in the penthouse. Third door on the left in the east wing. I'd noticed it the first week. Tried the handle once out of curiosity. Found it locked. Mrs. Cho had seen me and gone pale. "Mr. Park's private space," she'd said quickly. "No one enters." I didn't push. But one night, Jin-woo came home from a business trip, and he was different. Not emotional, exactly, but something was off. He poured himself 3 scotches, instead of 1, stood at the window for an hour without saying anything. I shouldn't have asked, but I did. "Are you okay?" He looked at me like he'd forgotten I was there. "It's the anniversary," he said. "Of what?" "The day she died. Hae-won. His first wife." I didn't know what to say. Jin-woo pulled something from his pocket. A key. Small, brass, old-fashioned. "The room at the end of the hall," he said. "I've kept it locked for 15 years. If you want to understand why I am the way I am, open it." He held out the key. I took it, and I immediately regretted it. I didn't open the room that night, or the next night, but it sat in my pocket like a weight. And eventually, curiosity won. It was 3 a.m. Jin-woo was in Tokyo for meetings. The penthouse was silent, except for the hum of the city outside. I walked to the locked door, key in hand, and I hesitated. This was a boundary. Once I crossed it, something would change. I unlocked the door. The room was a shrine. Not literally, but close. Everything was preserved exactly as it had been. A 4-poster bed with silk sheets. A vanity covered in perfume bottles and jewelry. Photographs on every surface. A woman with a bright smile, laughing in Jin-woo's arms. The 2 of them on a beach. At a wedding. In a hospital. Her hand on her swollen belly. Havon. She was beautiful. Delicate. Everything. I wasn't. And she was everywhere. I walked through the room like a ghost myself, touching nothing, just looking. There was a journal on the nightstand. Leather-bound. I opened it. The first entry was dated 16 years ago. Jin-woo asked me to marry him today. I said yes before he even finished the question. I've never been so sure of anything in my life. I flipped through pages. Her handwriting. Her thoughts. Her love for a man who was nothing like the one I'd married. He's so gentle with me. So careful. Sometimes I think he loves me more than I deserve. "We're having a baby," Jin-woo cried when I told him. I didn't know he could cry. "I'm scared. The doctors say there are complications. But Jin-woo says everything will be okay. I believe him because I have to." The last entry was the day before she died. If something happens to me, I need him to know that loving him was the best thing I ever did. And if I don't survive this, I hope he finds a way to be happy again. Even if it takes years, even if he thinks he can't. I closed the journal. My hands were shaking. I understood now. Jin-woo didn't choose me because I was brilliant or self-sufficient. He chose me because I was the opposite of everything he'd lost. Because loving me would be impossible, and that's what he wanted. Safety in apathy. I left the room and locked it behind me. But the damage was done. I confronted Min-jae the next night. I found him at his art foundation, a converted warehouse in Seongsu-dong. The sign outside said, Eternal Nocturne Foundation, and the lights were on even though it was past midnight. I walked in without knocking. Min-jae was in the main gallery, standing in front of a massive canvas, abstract, violent slashes, of black and red. He didn't turn around when I entered. You opened the room, he said. How did you know? Because you're here. I walked up beside him, staring at the painting. It looked like grief. Tell me about her, I said. Hey, one? Min-jae's voice was quiet. She was the best person I've ever known. Kind, patient. She made my brother human. And when she died, he shut down. Completely. Sold their house. Locked her things away. Threw himself into work. Hasn't had a relationship since. Hasn't even tried. Until me. You're not a relationship, Min-jae said, finally looking at me. You're a safeguard. He chose you specifically, because he knew he'd never love you. It shouldn't have hurt. I already knew. But hearing it out loud felt like being flayed. Why do you care? I asked. Because I watched him bury his humanity with her, Min-jae said. And now I'm watching him bury you alive, and you're letting him. I made a choice. A coerced choice isn't a choice. My family is fine, Min-jae interrupted. The company is saved. The debts are cleared. You fulfilled your part. You could leave. And the money? Fuck the money, Min-jae said. And there was real anger in his voice now. You're brilliant. You're capable. You could rebuild without him. Why are you telling me this? He stepped closer. Too close. Because I've been watching you for 2 months, he said quietly. And I've seen you disappear a little more every day. And it's killing me. My heart was pounding. You don't even know me. I know you're lying to yourself, Min-jae said. I know you're suffocating in that penthouse. I know you stand at the window at 3 a.m. because you can't sleep next to a man who doesn't see you. And I know that if you stay, you'll turn into exactly what he wants. A beautiful, empty shell. Stop. No. He was so close now. I could feel the heat of him. You want me to stop? Then tell me you're happy. Tell me you chose this freely. Tell me you don't think about leaving every single day. I couldn't. Because he was right. I should go, I whispered. Then go. But I didn't move. Neither did he. We stood there, inches apart. And the air between us was so charged I thought it might catch fire. If I cross this line, Min-jae said, his voice rough, I won't stop. I won't be careful. I won't be the better man. So you need to leave. Right now. I should have. God. I should have. But I stayed. And something in his eyes went dark. Don't say I didn't warn you, he whispered. Then he kissed me. Not gently. Not carefully. Like he'd been starving for it. His hands were in my hair, on my waist, pulling me against him. And I kissed him back, just as desperately, because I'd been drowning for months, and he tasted like air. We broke apart, breathing hard, and I realized what I'd just done. I'm married, I said. To a man who'll never touch you, Min-jae said. Not like this. This is wrong. I know. We can't. I know. But his hands were still on me, and mine were still gripping his shirt, and neither of us moved. I'm leaving Seoul in 2 weeks, Min-jae said. The foundation secured funding in Berlin. I'm taking a position there. My stomach dropped. You're running. I'm surviving, he said. Just like you. Don't what? Don't leave. Don't want you. Don't see you for who you actually are, instead of what my brother paid for. Each word was a knife. You don't get to do this, I said, pulling away. You don't get to make me feel this, and then leave. And you don't get to ask me to stay, Min-jae shot back. You're his wife. You signed the papers. You took the money. You made your choice. You said it wasn't a real choice. It wasn't. But you still made it. I hated him. I hated him because he was right. I hated him because he'd shown me what I was missing. I hated him because in 2 weeks, he'd be gone, and I'd be left in that penthouse with a husband who treated me like fine china, and I'd have to live with the fact that I'd tasted something real and let it walk away. I have to go, I said. This time, I actually left, and Min-jae didn't stop me. Jin-woo announced the wedding date 3 days later. Not our wedding. The formal reception he'd mentioned months ago. The public event for business associates and family. It's in 10 days, he said over breakfast. The venue is secured. The guest list is finalized. Mrs. Cho will take you for your final dress fitting tomorrow. 10 days, I repeated. Is that a problem? Yes. Everything is a problem. No, I said. Jin-woo studied me with those careful, empty eyes. You've seemed distracted lately. My heart stopped. Just tired, I managed. Perhaps you should rest more, he said. The schedule has been demanding. I'll reduce your obligations this week. He said it, like he was adjusting a meeting schedule. Not asking if I was okay. Not noticing I was falling apart. Thank you, I said. He nodded, finished his coffee, and left for the office. And I sat there, alone in a dining room that cost more than most people's houses. And I thought, I can't do this anymore. But I didn't know what this even was. The marriage? The lie? The fact that I was in love with my husband's brother, and I hadn't even realized it until 3 days ago. I avoided Min-jae for a week. Didn't go to the rooftop. Didn't leave the penthouse. Except for required appointments. Didn't answer when he texted. We need to talk. Please don't do this. I'm sorry. I deleted every message, but the night before the reception, he showed up at the penthouse. Jin-woo was in Busan for a meeting. Mrs. Cho had the evening off. I was alone, standing at the window in the dark, when I heard the elevator. I thought it was Jin-woo coming home early, but it was Min-jae. How did you get up here? I asked. I still have a key, he said. From before. Jin-woo never asked for it back. You need to leave. I know. But he didn't move. He looked wrecked. Hair disheveled. Eyes shadowed. Like he hadn't slept in days. I tried to stay away, he said. I really fucking tried. Min-jae. I'm leaving tomorrow, he interrupted. My flight is at 6 p.m. After the reception. I won't see you again. Something in my chest cracked. Good. Is it? He stepped closer. Because you look like you're dying, and I feel like I'm the only one who notices. You don't get to do this, I said, my voice breaking. You don't get to care now, not when it's too late. It's been too late since the moment you said yes to him, Min-jae said. But that didn't stop me from falling for you anyway. The world tilted. Don't. Why not? You want me to lie? Pretend I don't think about you constantly? Pretend I didn't kiss you and realize I'd been waiting my whole life for it? Stop. Tell me you don't feel it, Min-jae said. And now he was right in front of me, close enough to touch. Tell me you don't think about that night. Tell me you're happy with him. Tell me anything that isn't the truth. And I'll leave right now. I couldn't. Because the truth was I thought about him every waking moment. The truth was, Jin-woo had touched me exactly once since we got married. A chaste kiss on the forehead after I'd accompanied him to a charity gala. The truth was I was so desperately lonely I'd started talking to myself just to hear a voice that cared. I can't do this, I whispered. Then don't, Min-jae said. Come with me. Tomorrow. After the reception. I have an apartment in Berlin. A job. We'll figure out the rest. I'm married. To a contract, he said. Not a man. He'll destroy my family. He won't, Min-jae said firmly. The merger is done. The patents are transferred. Legally, he has everything he needs. You leaving doesn't change that. You don't know that. I do, Min-jae said. Because I had my attorney review the prenup. There's a clause. If you leave within the first year, you forfeit the money. But Jin-woo can't reverse the company acquisition. It's ironclad. Your family is safe regardless. I stared at him. You had someone review my prenup? I needed to know if you were actually trapped, Min-jae said. And you're not. Financially, emotionally, legally. You can leave. Tonight, if you want. And the heir clause? Unenforceable, Min-jae said. You can't contract someone into having a child. It's symbolic. Pressure. But not legal. My mind was spinning. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm selfish, Min-jae said. Because I want you to come with me. Because I've been in love with you since that first dinner, when you looked at my brother like you were trying to figure out how you ended up in a cage. And I thought, I know exactly how she feels. He was in love with me. Min-jae was in love with me. And God help me, I was in love with him too. I need time, I managed. You have until tomorrow, Min-jae said. 6 p.m. Terminal 2. Gate 24. I'll wait until boarding. If you don't come, I'll understand. But I had to give you the choice. A real one, this time. Then he left, and I stood in the dark, shaking, with a decision that would change everything. The reception was a nightmare dressed as a fairy tale. The venue was stunning. The Schiller Hotel's grand ballroom, decorated in white and gold. Flowers everywhere. A orchestra, playing Vivaldi. Waiters circulating with champagne and hors d'oeuvre that probably cost more per bite than most people's meals. I wore a dress that Jinwoo's stylist had chosen. White silk, off-shoulder, elegant and demure. Diamonds at my throat that Jinwoo had presented that morning, with all the warmth of a real estate transaction. You look beautiful, he'd said. Not, you are beautiful. You look like I was a painting, a decoration. We stood at the entrance, greeting guests. Jinwoo's hand on my lower back, proprietary and empty. I smiled until my face ached. Shook hands. Accepted congratulations. Such a beautiful couple. You're so lucky. He's such a catch. Every word felt like glass. Min-jae didn't come. I told myself I wasn't looking for him. But I was. 3 hours into the reception, Jinwoo leaned close, his breath against my ear. I need to handle something. Stay here. Smile. I'll return shortly. Then he was gone, and I stood alone in a room full of people, invisible and suffocating. That's when I saw him, Min-jae, standing at the back of the ballroom, half hidden behind a column. He was in a suit, but it looked wrong on him. Too formal, too restrained. Our eyes met across the room, and everything else disappeared. He tilted his head toward the hallway, then left. I shouldn't have followed, but my feet moved before my brain could stop them. I found him in the wine cellar 2 floors down. Private, dark, rows of bottles worth more than cars. You came, I said. I had to see you, Min-jae said. One last time. Your flight is in 3 hours, he finished. I know. We stood there, the length of the cellar between us, and I could feel the weight of every choice I'd made pressing down. Come with me, Min-jae said quietly. Please. I can't. Why? Because I'm scared, I admitted. Because I don't know you. Because this could be a mistake just as big as marrying Jinwoo. It could be, Min-jae agreed. But at least it would be your mistake, your choice. Not something your father negotiated. Not something my brother purchased. He stepped closer. I'm not asking you to marry me, he said. I'm not asking for forever. I'm asking for a chance. 3 months in Berlin. If it doesn't work, you can come back. Or go anywhere else. But at least you'll know you tried. And if Jinwoo retaliates? He won't, Min-jae said firmly. I know my brother. He'll be angry, humiliated. But he won't destroy your family over this. His pride won't allow it. Publicly, he'll say the marriage didn't work. Privately, he'll move on to the next solution. That's who he is. You sound so sure. I am, Min-jae said. Because I know what he's not capable of. And one of those things is caring enough to seek revenge. The words hit like a punch. Because he was right. Jinwoo wouldn't come after me out of heartbreak. Because his heart wasn't involved. It never had been. I'm terrified, I whispered. Good, Min-jae said. Fear means it matters. He closed the distance between us then, slowly, giving me every opportunity to step back. I didn't. I need to tell you something, he said, his voice low. And I need you to really hear it. Okay, if you come with me, I won't be gentle. I won't be patient. I've wanted you for months. And I've spent every day watching my brother treat you like furniture. And it's made me fucking feral. So if you get on that plane, if you choose this, you need to understand that I'm not offering you safety. I'm offering you chaos, passion, a relationship where we'll probably fight and fuck and figure things out as we go. It won't be clean. It won't be controlled. It'll be real and messy, and sometimes it'll hurt. My breath caught. But it'll also be yours, he continued. Your choice, your life, your mistakes to make. Not your father's, not Jinwoo's, yours. He lifted his hand, slowly, and traced my jawline with his thumb. "I'm in love with you," he said. "I've been in love with you since you told me survival was all you were asking for. And I wanted to give you everything else. And I know this is fast. I know this is insane. I know I'm asking you to blow up your entire life for something that might not work. But I can't get on that plane without knowing I tried." I was shaking. "What if I'm not brave enough?" "You're the bravest person I know," Min Jae said. "You flew to a foreign country and married a stranger to save your family. You learned a new language in 3 months. You've survived in my brother's frozen world without losing yourself completely. You're brave enough. You just don't believe it yet." His hand slid to the back of my neck. "Come with me," he whispered. "Please." And I broke. I kissed him like I was drowning and he was air. Like the last 3 months had been suffocating me. And this was the first real breath I'd taken. He kissed me back just as desperately. His hands in my hair, on my waist, pulling me so close there was nothing between us but silk and want. "Is that a yes?" he asked against my mouth. "It's a maybe," I managed. He smiled, and it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. "I'll take it." Then we heard footsteps. We broke apart just as the cellar door opened. Jin-woo stood in the doorway. Time stopped. Jin-woo's eyes moved from me to Min Jae and back again. His expression didn't change. That was somehow worse than anger. "The reception is still ongoing," Jin-woo said calmly. "You're needed upstairs." "Jin-woo," I started. "We'll discuss this later," he interrupted. "Right now, you'll return to the ballroom. Smile. Fulfill your obligations. We have 200 guests who expect to see a happy couple." "She doesn't have to do anything," Min Jae said. Jin-woo's eyes finally moved to his brother. "Stay out of this." "No," Min Jae said. "Not this time. This is between me and my wife." "Your wife, who you purchased like a business asset?" Min Jae's voice was hard. "Your wife, who you've ignored for 3 months. Your wife who stands at the window at 3 a.m. because she's so fucking lonely in your mausoleum of a penthouse that she can't sleep? You don't know what you're talking about." "I know exactly what I'm talking about," Min Jae shot back. "I watched you do the same thing to Hae. One before she died. Work more. Care less. Treat love like a liability. And now you're doing it to her. Except worse. Because at least Hae one you actually loved." Jin-woo's face did something I'd never seen before. Actual emotion. Rage. "Don't you dare speak her name." "Why not?" Min Jae challenged. "Because it hurts. Because it reminds you that you're capable of feeling something. You've been dead for 15 years, and you're trying to drag her down with you. She made her choice. Under duress," Min Jae said. "To save her family. That's not a choice. That's extortion. I gave her everything. Except yourself," Min Jae interrupted. "You gave her money. Security. An empty fucking title. But you never gave her you. Because you don't have anything left to give. You buried it with Hae one. And you've been operating as a shell ever since." Jin-woo moved so fast I barely saw it. One moment he was in the doorway. The next, his hand was around Min Jae's throat, slamming him against the wine rack. Bottles shattered. "You know nothing about what I lost," Jin-woo said, his voice lethal. "Nothing about what it took to survive it. Nothing about why I made the choices I made." "Then tell me," Min Jae choked out. "For once in your life, be honest." Jin-woo's hand tightened. Then he let go, stepped back. And when he spoke, his voice was empty again. "She died because of me," Jin-woo said. "The doctors told us the pregnancy was high risk. Told us to terminate. Hae-won wanted to keep it. I supported her decision, and it killed her. So yes, I shut down. Yes, I stopped feeling. Because feeling meant acknowledging that I chose a child I never met over the woman I loved more than my own life. The silence was deafening. That's why I chose you, Jin-woo said, looking at me now. Because you would never ask me to feel again. Because I could give you everything material and never risk my heart. Because I thought I could have a marriage without the danger of love." His eyes were still empty, but his hands were shaking. "I'm sorry," he said, "for using you, for not being honest about what this really was. You deserve better than what I can offer." He turned to leave. "Wait," I said. He stopped. "If I leave," I asked quietly, "will you retaliate against my family?" No, Junwoo said without turning around. The acquisition is complete. The contracts are signed. Legally and morally. Your family is protected. That was always the plan. Then I need to tell you something too. He turned slowly. I'm in love with your brother, I said. The words felt like jumping off a cliff. I didn't mean to be. I tried not to be. But I am. And I'm sorry. Not for loving him, but for not having the courage to tell you sooner. Jinwoo studied me for a long moment. I know, he said finally. My heart stopped. You knew? I suspected from the first family dinner, Jinwoo said. The way you looked at each other, the way he spoke about you. I told myself it didn't matter, that you'd both be professional, that the arrangement would hold. Why didn't you say anything? Because it would have required acknowledging that I'd put you in an impossible position, Jinwoo said. And I wasn't ready to face that. He looked at Min-jae. Take care of her, he said quietly. Better than I did. Then he walked out, and I stood there, shaking, unable to process what had just happened. Did he just... I started. Give his blessing? Min-jae finished. I think so. That was the most emotion I've seen from him in 15 years, Min-jae said. He was still leaning against the wine rack, rubbing his throat where Jinwoo had grabbed him. Are you okay? I don't know, I admitted. I feel like I just watched something break. Or begin to heal, Min-jae said softly. He held out his hand. The flight leaves in 2.5 hours, he said. We need to go. Now. I looked at his hand. This was it. The actual choice. No coercion. No financial pressure. No family obligations. Just me, deciding what kind of life I wanted. I thought about the penthouse. The locked room. The ghost of a woman I could never compete with. I thought about Jinwoo's empty eyes and careful distance. I thought about 3 more years of being seen but not known. Provided for, but not loved. Then I thought about Min-jae. His anger on my behalf. His refusal to let me disappear. The way he looked at me, like I was the most important thing in the room. The way he kissed me, like I was real. I took his hand. Let's go. We didn't go back to the reception. Min-jae had a car waiting in the underground garage. We got in, and he gave the driver the address for my apartment. 15 minutes, he said. Pack light. We'll buy whatever you need in Berlin. My hands were shaking so badly. I could barely hold my phone. There were already 17 missed calls from Mrs. Cho. 5 from Jinwoo's assistant. I turned off my phone. What about the guests? I asked. The reception? Jinwoo will handle it, Min-jae said. He's good at damage control. This is insane. I know. I'm running away from my own wedding reception. Technically, it was a reception for a marriage that never should have happened, Min-jae pointed out. That doesn't make this less insane. No, he agreed. But does it feel right? I looked at him, really looked at him. This man who'd seen me at my lowest, and refused to let me settle, who'd researched my prenup to prove I had options, who was willing to blow up his relationship with his brother for a maybe. Yeah, I said. It feels right. He smiled, and for the first time in months, I smiled back, and meant it. The apartment I'd barely lived in was easy to pack. I'd never really moved in properly. Most of my things were still in boxes. I grabbed clothes, my laptop, my passport, left the designer dresses Jinwoo had bought, left the jewelry, left everything that belonged to the life I was walking away from. Min-jae helped me carry 2 suitcases to the car. That's it? He asked. I travel light, I said. Good, he said. So do I. The drive to Incheon Airport took 40 minutes. We didn't talk much. Min-jae's hand was on my knee the entire time, grounding me, reminding me this was real. When we pulled up to Terminal 2, reality hit. I'm actually doing this, I said. You are, Min-jae confirmed. Last chance to back out. Are you trying to get rid of me? No, he said seriously. I'm making sure you're sure. I kissed him, right there in the back of the car, with the driver pretending not to notice. I'm sure, I said against his mouth. Thank God, he breathed. We checked in together. The woman at the counter looked at my ticket, then at me. Mrs. Park? She asked. My stomach dropped. I was still registered under Jinwoo's name. It's complicated, I said. Min-jae's hand tightened on mine. The woman processed our tickets without further comment. We went through security, found our gate, sat in uncomfortable airport chairs, and watched planes take off through the massive windows. Tell me about Berlin, I said. Cold, Min-jae said. Dark in the winter. Amazing museums. Incredible nightlife. The foundation I'm working with specializes in supporting refugee artists. It's good work. Meaningful work. Sounds perfect. It's a one-bedroom apartment, he warned. Small. Nothing like the penthouse. Good, I said. I hated the penthouse. What didn't you hate? He asked. The rooftop garden, I said. The view. The way the city looked at night. And you, I admitted. I didn't hate you. Damned with faint praise? Min-jae said, but he was smiling. I more than didn't hate you, I said quietly. Yeah? His thumb traced circles on my palm. How much more? I think you know. I want to hear you say it. I looked at him, this man who'd given me a choice when I'd forgotten I had one. I love you, I said. I'm terrified. I might regret this tomorrow. This might be the biggest mistake of my life. But I love you. Min-jae kissed me, right there in gate 24, in front of businessmen and families and travelers. Kissed me like I was the only person in the world. I love you too, he said when we broke apart. And for the record, you won't regret this. You sound sure. I am, he said. Because I'm going to spend every day proving you made the right choice. That's a lot of pressure. I can handle it. They called our flight 10 minutes later. We boarded together, found our seats. As the plane lifted off, I watched Seoul disappear below us. The city lights. The Han River. Somewhere down there, Jinwoo was probably explaining to 200 guests why his bride had disappeared. I should have felt guilty. Maybe I would tomorrow. But right now, with Min-jae's hand in mine, and 37,000 feet between me and the life I'd almost settled for, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Free. Berlin was everything Min-jae promised, and nothing I expected. Cold. Grey. Beautiful in a stark, unforgiving way. The apartment was tiny. 4th floor walk-up in Kreuzberg. 1 bedroom. A kitchen the size of a closet. But it had massive windows, and hardwood floors. And it was ours. Not Jinwoo's. Not part of an arrangement. Oh. The first week was strange. We jumped into this so fast. We'd skipped all the normal relationship steps. We'd gone from forbidden attraction to running away together without ever having a normal date. So we had to learn each other backward. I learned Min-jae snored when he slept on his back. He learned I couldn't function before coffee. I learned he painted at 3 a.m. when he couldn't sleep. He learned I still woke up sometimes, heart racing, thinking I'd made a terrible mistake. Those nights, he'd pull me close and say, "Tell me what you need." And I'd say, "Just this." And he'd hold me until I fell back asleep. We fought sometimes. Real fights. Loud fights. About money. About the future. About whether I should contact Jinwoo to formally finalize the divorce. He deserves closure, I said. He deserves to figure out his own shit, Min-jae countered. That's your brother. And you're the woman I love, Min-jae said. I'm always going to choose you. I called Jinwoo anyway. He answered on the second ring. I was wondering when you'd call, he said. His voice was the same. Calm. Controlled. Empty. I wanted to make sure you were okay, I said. I'm fine, Jinwoo said. The board was informed that the marriage didn't work out due to irreconcilable differences. The merger stands. Your family is protected. Legally, we're in the process of annulment. An annulment? The marriage was never consummated. Jin-woo said matter-of-factly. It's cleaner this way. Thank you. Don't thank me, he said. I'm correcting a mistake. Nothing more. There was a pause. Are you happy? He asked. The question surprised me. I'm getting there, I said honestly. Good, Jinwoo said. That's more than I could have given you. Jinwoo, take care of yourself, he interrupted. And tell my brother if he hurts you, I'll destroy him. He hung up. I stood there, phone in hand, crying for reasons I couldn't fully explain. Min-jae found me 10 minutes later. What did he say? He asked. That he'd destroy you if you hurt me. Min-jae smiled. That's the most brotherly thing he's said to me in 15 years. 6 months passed. I enrolled in a graduate program at Humboldt University. Min-jae's foundation grew. We built a life. Not perfect. Not easy. But real. I woke up next to him every morning. And chose him again. And he chose me back. One night, lying in bed in our tiny apartment, Min-jae said, I need to tell you something. My stomach clenched. Okay. I talked to Jinwoo last week, he said. I sat up. What? He called me. Min-jae said. First time in 6 months. Asked how you were doing. What did you tell him? The truth, Min-jae said. That you're enrolled in school. That you're happy. That you don't regret leaving. How did he react? He said good, Min-jae said quietly. Then he asked if I was treating you well. And I told him I was trying, Min-jae said. That some days were hard. That we fought sometimes. But that I loved you more than I'd ever loved anyone. What did he say? Min-jae smiled slightly. He said, that's more than I was capable of. Don't waste it. I felt tears building. He's letting go, I whispered. I think so, Min-jae agreed. Finally, he pulled me close. Thank you, he said. For what? For being brave enough to leave, Min-jae said. For choosing chaos over comfort. For choosing me. Thank you for giving me the choice, I said. We fell asleep tangled together, and for the first time since I'd arrived in Seoul a year ago, I didn't wake up at 3 a.m. I slept through the night. Safe. Chosen. Home. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. It's not a fairy tale. There's no perfect ending tied up with a bow, but it's mine. My choice. My life. And that's enough. Hit that subscribe button if you believe in choosing yourself, even when it's terrifying. Leave a comment telling me about a time you had to choose between safety and truth. And if you're stuck in a situation that feels like a cage, remember this. You're braver than you think. And you always have a choice, even when it doesn't feel like it. Part 2 coming soon, where I'll tell you about what happened when Jinwoo showed up in Berlin 6 months later with a proposition that changed everything again. But that's a story for another time. Until then, choose yourself. Choose truth. Choose the life that makes you feel alive, even if it scares the hell out of you. Especially then.